Okay, hello everyone. We are super excited today. This is a new type of video where we're going to have two different career coaches or advisors give our take and opinion on very popular networking questions. And so these questions I've accumulated from comments and also just general information that I've had to share and receive based on some of the clients I've worked with and just from our Facebook community. And today we have a very special guest. We have Ivy. I'll have her run through her introduction in a bit, but I'll give a quick introduction of myself. My name is Corey. I run a company called CareerShakers.com, where I try and help folks with their career transitions as well as just general coaching advice overall. During the day, I am a recruiter and I try and use some of that information and knowledge to pass on coaching information to others. And I'll kick it over to Ivy.
Hey everyone, I'm Ivy. I'm also a career coach. I am not a recruiter full-time. I'm an entrepreneur full-time. I'm actually working on several different projects now, including a podcast called Get World Savvy, as well as a virtual summer camp for the summer. So just sort of serial entrepreneuring and testing out different projects. But prior to all that, I worked in Silicon Valley for 4 years. And over that time, I was a non-technical that broke into tech. And I worked at Wish, which is the top downloaded shopping app in 2018 and 2019 for about 3 years. And over that time, I interviewed a lot of different people to bring them onto the team. We grew from 100 to 500 people. And I've been blogging about career search and just careers in general advice since 2016. So over time, I started coaching more and more non-technicals on how to break into tech. So always happy to talk about networking since that's a huge part on expressing yourself as a non-technical in the tech industry.
Yeah, for sure. And I've actually, Wish is probably what people believe is the closest possible competitor to Amazon right now at this current point in time. And so it's really cool that Ivy has that hands-on experience and networking is her specialty. So I think we all will be able to learn a lot. So how it's going to work is I will throw out a networking question or basically like what people would ask for advice as it relates to networking. And then both Ivy and I will give our answers and opinions. Maybe they'll be the same, maybe they'll be different. And then hopefully you guys can take some of this information and apply it and start crushing your networking goals right away. And we are recording this right now in the middle of 2020. So it's the middle, or what some people believe to be the middle of the COVID-19 epidemic or incident. And so as we come out of this mini recession, networking is going to be a huge component. So we wanted to make sure that we get all this information to you guys, our audiences, ASAP. So the first question, Ivy, is something that I feel like we probably both get quite often is when you're trying to message someone, let's say on LinkedIn, what is the most effective way to get a response?
Yeah, for sure. This is definitely a question that I get a lot. And there's many steps in this first, right? So you want to make sure that you're messaging the right person for it to be effective, assuming that by the word effective, you really mean that you want to get an end result from this sort of messaging. And the result that you usually want to get is that you either, there's my dog, you either get a referral or an introduction from this person. So the first step is understanding like who you need to reach out to. And I always recommend reaching out to the hiring manager or someone on the hiring team, meaning that if you're an account executive, you either reach out to the sales manager or someone that's already an account executive. This is because hiring managers are the decision maker as well as the hiring team are people that you'll work with, and they obviously have more of a say than just anyone at the company, or especially a recruiter who actually sees a lot of different emails or a lot of different resumes. And so like how you find these people, my biggest LinkedIn hack is to search on the search bar without advanced search, just by the role that you want. So let's say you want to go into product, you say product, I'm hiring. And it's just three words, product, I'm hiring. And that will give you a list of all product people that have I'm hiring on their name, which is a lot of hiring managers do that, especially if they're hiring. That is the best way to find hiring managers. If not, do the advanced searches on LinkedIn, find who's working at different companies in the position that you want to. So now that you have the right person, it's about, first of all, getting them to connect. I personally have never had success using InMail. I don't really know why, but like no one's ever responded to my InMails. And I haven't really heard of anyone with super success InMails for reaching out to someone at the company. because it just shows up in someone's inbox, and you need to pay a certain amount for it if you want to get LinkedIn Premium. But if you don't, I just recommend connecting with the person. In the connection request, some of my best tips is to just, number one, don't immediately ask for anything yet, because if someone just doesn't want to deal with you, you're basically like cutting them off for good if they don't accept you then, right? So someone that might not be useful to you now, or are unwilling or not able to help you right now, doesn't mean that they can't help you in the future. And a connection on LinkedIn is always good. So you want that piece to be like, give you the best foot forward in order to get them to accept you. And the best way to do that is actually quite simple. Just say that you're interested in some of their content that they've been posting, or that like you just want to follow along, and that you can share, especially if you're already in the industry, that, oh, look, we're both in marketing. I'd love to discuss XYZ with you. And to show that you're actually interested, this is all public, right? Go to their profile, click on some of their posts, go like 3 of their posts before you do this. You show up quite a bit on their notification feed. They'll know that you're actually interested. Should be a pretty easy accept right there. They might not even check out your profile. I personally accept anyone that like types anything and that I might have seen their name before. Yeah, so now you get to the stage of like, okay, they've accepted you, you have like an open inbox to send things to. It's important to know that, yes, it is mid 2020 right now, and that a lot of companies might not be hiring. A lot of people might be asking for positions right now. So it's actually really important, I think, at this point, to be super empathetic about
Mm,
the fact that they might not be able to give you anything right now, right? Because like it sucks for the other person too. If all of a sudden you actually are lucky enough to still have a job right now, you're very fortunate, but then you can't really do anything for other people. There's just no roles open, and you're just saying no to people all the time. It doesn't feel good on their end either. So number one, I think what most people don't do is being like super empathetic towards them as well,
mm,
and just say that it's okay. Like, this is, introduce yourself as you would. And I just think it's really important to add at the end that like, I understand that we're in a tight situation right now, and I know that nothing might be available right now, but like I just wanted to reach out because I think this could be a really great connection, or that like I've always been interested in this company that you're looking at. Could you just let me know if, a role ever does open up? Like, just keep me in mind, and like would love to support you in whatever way in the meantime. I think that will generate better results. I mean,
mm.
showing empathy to the other person in general always reap better results, right? But especially now.
Yeah,
And the goal right now for networking is always like, it's not about getting a job as fast as possible. It is definitely more of an employer market. There's a lot of selection. So it's not about like right away. If you are fortunate enough to not like absolutely need one right away, but to build a lot of connections so that you're top of mind when a job that really fits you comes up. So it's about making all these connections so all these people know what you really want, and when something comes up, you want to be the first person that they think about. And
right.
that is the most effective way to message someone. But then as we go on is like, how do you stay top of mind as well? So that's about you like actually creating content and updating people as well.
Yeah, it's like an investment, right? Like you have to like
Yeah.
invest time essentially into a relationship, and then eventually you may be able to get a referral or the right
Yeah.
introduction to help you get your next role. It's not like you can send just one LinkedIn message that says, "Hi, I'm Corey. I'm amazing at my job. Will you hire me?" Right? It's a little bit deeper than that, and you have to put in a little bit more work, so they say. And
Yeah.
in terms of what Ivy's saying, I do like echo a lot of those same sentiments. I actually think it's a really cool hack that she talked about, where you just literally put in the search bar, like you don't even need quotations, right? It's just literally "I'm hiring" without the quotes, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, awesome. So I think that's really, really cool. Something I tell everyone also is very similar to what Ivy said. It's about your intent, right? No one likes getting a message knowing that you're kind of taking advantage of them, right? Like, "Hi, I'm Corey. Are you hiring?" Or, "Hi, I'm Corey. I saw you work at Apple or Google or Amazon. I would love to work there
Exactly.
too." Right? Like, please, let's connect. No one really likes getting those types of messages. And as she said, you should do some research. Like, look at maybe their LinkedIn page or their posts, if you can find them on Facebook or something, right? Like show them that you've done some research and craft a personalized message. One other thing that I wanted to add too is if you are looking to connect, which a lot of the times you are, make it as easy as possible for them to connect with you. Meaning, like when you're sending your message, even provide like proactively, like if you are free, I would really love to connect, like I'm free X, Y, and Z times this week and next week, right? Just make it as easy and frictionless as possible. One thing I really hate is the back and forth, right? Let's say you do craft a really great message and I'm like, okay, like I'll spend 10 to 15 minutes and talk to you, and then we spend like 5 messages going back and forth, like how about Wednesday? What time Wednesday? 2 o'clock. Oh, can you do 2:30 instead? Okay, maybe 2:30 to 2:45. Sounds good. What's your phone number? Or how do I Zoom call you? Right? Like all these back and forths, they can just fizzle out. So just make it as easy as possible. So whenever someone does read it, right, they're doing you a favor. So just try and make it as easy for them. And the other thing that I always say is never reschedule, ever, because they're the ones who are essentially making time to help you potentially. And if you all are, if you're canceling or something, and yes, like work stuff does come up, but that's why I try and plan your messages to have time slots where you know that for sure, like there's a 99% chance you'll be free at these windows. That's what I highly recommend, because it's never really a good impression, right? When you're like, hey, I want something from you. Can we talk at this time? Oh, just kidding. I'm busy now. Um,
Mhm.
it's it doesn't really leave a really good taste in some people's mouths. But yeah, that's how I would go about getting an effective response and building a relationship. So thank you, Ivy. It's cool that we actually have the same thoughts. Okay, so the second question, and I'll take a stab at this one first. Other than LinkedIn, where should people go to build their network? I know Ivy is probably going to talk a little bit about live events as well. But for me, I've seen a lot of success outside of LinkedIn. I kind of think of it like a pyramid. So I would recommend you actually start with like your previous coworkers or managers, anyone that basically can talk about your work. I think that's going to be the most important place to start, just because if you are going to get a referral from someone, almost at every single company, there's like some form that you fill out, right? And they're going to be asked, why should we hire Corey, right? Why is he so good in his job? And if you are just messaging someone random on LinkedIn who may be in the same field as you or may not, how are they going to answer that question about you if they've, I mean, never worked with you, right? It's going to be really hard. So try and start with people who you've worked with that obviously have a positive impression of you. I wouldn't reach out to someone who, maybe you screwed up on their project or something. Start with people that can talk about your work, and then I would focus on maybe people you've went to college with, or someone who can talk about how successful you were in academics. Because other than work, right, what's the other place where someone can talk about how smart you are, or how great of a team player? It would be someone from school. And then I would go to like family and friends, and then after you've exhausted these three, then I would start to go to LinkedIn and networking events, and alumni associations is also something I feel like a lot of people sometimes forget about. And I mean, we've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in our universities. And so almost every single university, state or private, does have some type of alumni database or alumni association. And so I would definitely go there after talking with your family, friends, and relatives. I think that would also be a really cool place that not a lot of people tap into. Um, but that's kind of where I would look besides LinkedIn. Um, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree with your school, your communities, and people you know, because I think people really underestimate that network, because that's kind of, even on a LinkedIn level, that's your first degree connections. What they can connect you with is their second degree or third degree, right?
Hmm.
So before I start job searching, I always contact my first degree network first to see, honestly, I know that the question is things outside of LinkedIn, but I would go on LinkedIn. And when I first moved to Silicon Valley, like, this is part of my story. I'm Canadian. I moved there with no network, no work experience. I moved there as a new grad. Like, how did I even get started? I knew 3 people there. And from the 3 people, I went to their LinkedIn profiles, clicked view connections, and filtered for San Francisco and
Hmm.
Silicon Valley. And I got tried to ask for introductions to everyone there. And no matter whether these people I actually wanted to work at their companies, or I just try to find something that I can learn from them. And from them, I would then go through their connections and try to get to the next third degree. And then I just like kept on going. That's how I even built my general network. But what Corey really touched on, what you really touched on was the fact about community, is that people within the similar community will be more willing to help each other. And like we're both part of Albert's List. People are really helpful there. There's like a great community. You just feel this camaraderie, right? And you feel this camaraderie when you both went through a similar experience, whether that's job search in Silicon Valley, which is a lot of people in Albert's List, whether it's like you guys are all in tech, like I'm in some communities with tech ladies, or like Asian Hustle Network, or like your school alumni. It's like you guys all went to the same school. So anything that joins you together, whether it's like you guys are part of the same fellowship, years of alumni apart, or that you guys were both part of the same club, also like years apart, same like sorority or fraternity, anything like that will obviously bring close ties. And that's a great way to connect with someone, right? A similar experience. Actually, like speaking of messaging people right now, what really joins everyone together right now is the fact that we all went through COVID-19. And so a lot of my cold outreach right now has been like, oh, like COVID has hit Italy really, really hard. Like, how are you doing? You know, you just want to follow up with people. Remember, stay top of mind. So I basically went on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and I searched for like connections who live in Italy, connections who live in New York, connections that live in like Spain. And I have a few. Some of them I might never have talked to, because LinkedIn's full of connections that you never talk to. And I would just go cold outreach to them, not with anything in mind, just to get to know them, because I never had a chance to talk with them. And the one thing joining us all together now is that, like, how are you doing? Like, how is like your family and like your neighborhood, etc. And you just get into this conversation so that when you ask for something later on, it's not the first conversation that you ever have is you having an ask, right? At least you try to get to know them and try to have a conversation. Okay, so that's the thing about communities. Back to where else I would network. Yes, number one, communities. There's Slack communities, there's Facebook communities. Join anything that you semi-relate to. Like what I mentioned about Asian, like I'm an Asian Canadian woman entrepreneur who worked in sales. Like I would try to find things that like touch on one or more of those and join like all of those.
Right.
Because within that, you just have people with similar experiences. And I know that you said that I would touch on live events, so I will. I think that there's a lot of live events going on right now. It's almost overwhelming, but there's a lot of great ways for networking to happen in live events as well. It does take a little bit more effort on your end, but it's the same as an offline event. If you just show up at an offline event, you don't talk to anyone, you don't talk to the speaker. Honestly, talking to the speaker is very, very hard for the speaker to remember you, because it's like a hard ratio for you. So I never actually try to talk to the speaker unless I have something like really interesting to ask them or to say. I don't expect them to remember me at all. And the same thing for virtual events. You need to go in with a game plan. So do some research on who will be attending, what type of people, what are they going to be talking about. Make sure you have great questions prepared, because the more that you show up in chat, and also same thing with offline events, right? The more that you like actually vocalize yourself and introduce yourself. So when you ask a question in offline events, I always say, hey, I'm Ivy. I work at Wish. I manage the BD team at Wish in all regions outside of China. I do the same thing in virtual events, because everyone will see this chat. And if anyone's interested in talking to you, then they'll find you. And then I want you to keep track of everyone else that asks questions and see if you can find them on LinkedIn. And like, I have a little notebook. I'm like, what did they ask about? So that when I reach out to them on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh, I know you from this. Great question you asked about this. So like, clearly you show that you're actually interested in them. So that's like a tip. And then, yeah, basically anyone that has ever talked, I try to network with after.
Do you have a recommendation for like the best types of networking live events to go to? Or should, like, if someone were just to see across their LinkedIn or their Facebook pages, like live networking event, whatever, you should just go? Or are there certain ones you think are better than
Yeah,
others?
so anything to do with job search, unless you're looking for advice on job search, sort of like the people probably watching this video, there's going to be some of these, and then there might be like a networking session mixer. But the thing is that everyone that goes to these events are most likely looking for a job and are not able to help you before they help themselves, right? So it is possible that they can connect you with some people in their network that isn't a good fit for them, but really they're not going to be trying to network with a bunch of people that don't have jobs, because they themselves need to go network with people that have jobs right now to refer them. So I would actually like just go to a few, pick up the key skills on how to job search during this time, and then otherwise go to industry specific events. So within your industry, if you're in marketing, there's like marketing in a recession, B2B marketing, in Q3 or something like that to prep. And these will be attended by actual like industry people who are interested in this and probably have jobs. That's why they're attending this
Mm.
and need the actual skills. And not only that, you'll actually gain these skills and be able to talk to them about it in your interview, saying that you've kept up with the field. The worst events to go to are like B2B demos, like product demos.
Oh, huh.
There's a ton of those, right? But those, like everyone who's presenting are marketers. They don't want to talk to people who want jobs. They want to talk to potential prospects to buy their software. So that is actually the worst. Like no one will want to talk to you for one, and you're wasting their time. You're going to give them like a really bad impression. Even if you're like, oh, can you just like pass my resume along? They're probably not going to do it. They're like, oh my God, you're wasting my time. Because it's a hard market to sell like your software too, right? Like empathize with those people. They don't hit their quotas. Maybe they'll also like be out of a job soon, right? I just think like product demos are not recruiting events. You're
Mm.
not going to get that much out of it. Like people have a very specific idea in mind of what they want out of that. It's to understand the product or it's to sell that product.
Mm.
Um, while other like industry or market analysis or like how Uber uses data, etc., that attracts data scientists. Like that is actually a soft recruiting event, right? The reason that companies sponsor these, the reason that Uber would have like how they use data to do X, Y, and Z logistics and Uber Eats, they're trying to draw in data people interested and trying to hire them. So those types of events are the best events to go to, the ones that draw a specific niche of industry professionals. And ideally
Oh.
you are one of them.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So actually, that's a really interesting point. Like the networking events are probably not the best places to go. You probably should be focusing on the more informational pseudo networking events. Like the company, for example, that I work for, we have networking events where we're trying to find potential candidates to recruit for our roles, but we don't call it a networking event. We call it like some type of informational session or like a round table or like
Yeah.
a speaker series, right? Where we'll bring in certain experts from certain fields, and then we have like a very select or small interview list. Either like we choose who to invite on purpose, or we limit the attendance to maybe like 50 people, so it's really intimate. Those I believe are really the best investments of time overall.
Yeah.
And of course,
Right.
you wouldn't want to go around just being like, oh, by the way, I have a copy of my resume, just so happens
Yeah.
to
Don't
be here.
bring.
Yeah, yeah, because
Don't.
it's not an official networking event, but you should take advantage of it and try to build your connections in like a, a non, I was gonna say creepy way.
Yeah, no, don't bring your resume anywhere and pass out your resume. Like no one's in that mood. It's kind of like shopping, right? Like you just don't want someone who's trying to sell you stuff when you're trying to have a good time and meet people. People are more willing to refer people and help people that they like. So get them to like you first. In terms of events, and I know that this might not be as much of a like networking side, but I would say don't underestimate like house parties and social events, because like who do they draw? They draw the same people that networking events draw, but it's way easier to get someone to like you at a house party. I think, and to follow up with it, like you guys had a good time, and then oh, by the way, like this is what I do for work, and this is what I need, right? Just like there's a lot of events to do with like self-care or like joining groups where it's like board games or like hobbyists, but the people inside these groups have jobs and you can easily get them to like you. You can bond over this one thing. It's kind of just like community. It doesn't have to have anything to do with your identity or work. It can just be a group of like, for example, the San Francisco running club, like people network there all the time. There's like freaking VPs of all these companies that are part of the run club, along with all these like new grads who, as long as you like running, you're gonna have a running buddy and you're just gonna run 20 miles or something while talking to like the VP of Salesforce, and that's all good. I think online right now during this time when there's not a lot of offline events and there's not a lot of gatherings, there's still like people hosting block parties. So go hang out with your friends, get introduced to their friends, it's all about relationships, and relationships are not all professional. It's better to have a
Yep.
more personal relationship now. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. I mean, to my point earlier, right? Like, obviously, it would be great if someone could speak about your work or your schooling, but the next best thing is to just have a friend, right? Like a solid friend who genuinely likes you and wants you to succeed. They're also going to write you a very positive referral, if it is for their company, or at least they'll be more than willing to go out of their way and connect you with someone in their network who may be of better service if if they can't directly help you. So um, that's awesome. Great tips, by the way, Ivy. Thank you so much for everyone for listening, and thank you, Ivy. I feel like we covered a lot of really great networking tips in just 2 questions. I feel like we were able to take that one topic and kind of unravel it into all these little micro wins that people can get. And when it comes to networking, I do think it's all these little things that add up over time, especially as it gets really competitive as we come out of COVID-19. There's going to be an influx of jobs all at once, and then everyone who was unfortunately laid off, it's going to be really competitive, and just blanket applying online blindly is probably going to be much more difficult. You are going to need to build these relationships, and it's all of these little steps that you can take now so that you can set yourself up for success when we do come out of this mini recession. So hopefully you guys found that to be helpful. In terms of additional resources and things like that, I'll do my plug, and then Ivy will do hers. So you can find more information about my company at CareerShakers.com, and I've also got a YouTube channel. You just type in Career Shakers, all one word. I've got additional information and tips for just general coaching, networking, and overall, I guess, life planning. And Ivy, where can people find you? Like, what's the best way for them to stay connected or work with you?
Yeah, for sure. You can find me at ivyshoe.co. That is my personal website. I host my own podcast, which has nothing to do with careers on it, but I also have blogs for resources in terms of careers. And I also have a free masterclass. It's ivyshoe.co/masterclass. You'll also get that notification if you download any of the free resources on my website as
Oh,
well.
awesome. Masterclass.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you, Ivy, and good luck everybody in your networking journeys. And let us know if you need any support.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.